Remote outpost invasion, first contact. The battle cruiser drifted silently through the void, its angular hull reflecting the distant stars like obsidian glass. Commander studied the tactical display with satisfaction, his four eyes tracking the energy signatures emanating from the small planetary outpost below. "Target confirmed, Commander," reported his tactical officer, Subcommander. "Single facility, minimal defensive signatures. Population appears to be less than 50 individuals." A's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his species. They had conquered 17 systems in the past cycle, and this remote human settlement would barely register as a footnote in their expanding empire. Intelligence suggested it was nothing more than a research station, probably studying the mineral-rich asteroids that cluttered this system's outer rim. "Scan for defensive systems," A ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never tasted defeat. The military machine was precise, overwhelming, and utterly ruthless. Their standard protocol was simple: identify, overwhelm, absorb. This tiny outpost would fall within the hour. The sensor operator, a young named bent over his console. Detecting standard communication arrays, basic atmospheric processors, and what appears to be a small fusion reactor. No orbital defenses. No military vessels in the immediate vicinity. "Perfect," amused. "Deploy the first wave, standard suppression protocol. I want prisoners for interrogation about other human settlements in this region." The slaunch bays opened like the maws of some prehistoric beast, disgorging dozens of sleek fighters and 3 heavy assault shuttles. The attack formation moved with practiced precision toward the outpost, designated by human records as Research Station Delta 7. Below on the rocky planet's surface, Dr. Sarah paused in her analysis of mineral samples as warning klaxons suddenly pierced the quiet of the laboratory. She looked up from her microscope, confusion replacing concentration on her angular features. "What's the situation?" she called out to the main control room. The response came from Commander Jake, the outpost security chief. His voice carried over the intercom with forced calm. "Unknown vessels approaching. All research personnel to designated safe zones immediately." Sarah frowned as she began securing her work. Research Station Delta 7 was deliberately located in a remote system specifically to avoid such complications. The nearest inhabited world was 3 jumps away, and their location wasn't even marked on most star charts. Who could possibly have found them here? In the control center, stood before a bank of monitors showing the approaching alien craft. His weathered face remained impassive as he watched the tactical display update in real time. Beside him, Communications Officer Lisa Park frantically worked her console. "I'm getting no response to our hails," Park reported. "Whatever they are, they're not interested in talking." Nodded grimly. "Send a priority burst transmission to Fleet Command, full tactical data on the approaching vessels. And Lisa," he turned to meet her worried gaze, "use authentication code Crimson 7. Park's eyes widened slightly, but she without question. Crimson 7 was a classification that hadn't been used in over a decade. It meant only one thing: they weren't dealing with pirates or smugglers. As the alien fighters began their final approach, activated the outpost's internal communication system. "All personnel, this is Commander. We are experiencing an incursion by unknown hostile forces. Proceed to designated positions and await further orders." Doctor reached her assigned safe room just as the first explosions rocked the outpost. Through the reinforced windows, she could see alien craft strafing the outer buildings with precise weapon fire. The attacks seemed designed to disable rather than destroy, which struck her as oddly professional for raiders. The assault shuttles touched down in the outpost's main courtyard with mechanical precision. Armored figures poured out, their movements coordinated and purposeful. Each warrior stood nearly 7 feet tall, encased in powered armor that made them look like metallic insects. Their weapons hummed with barely contained energy as they advanced on the main building. Inside his command center, watched the deployment with the eye of someone who had seen many battles. The aliens moved with military discipline, establishing overlapping fields of fire and securing key positions with textbook efficiency. This wasn't a random raid. This was a military operation. "Sir," Park called out urgently, "I'm detecting additional ships moving into orbit. This looks like a full invasion force." Jaw tightened. "How many?" At least 12 vessels, including what appears to be a heavy cruiser. Sir, we're completely. The first breaching teams reached the outpost's outer doors. Their weapons carved through the reinforced barriers like they were made of paper, sending cascades of sparks and molten metal into the corridors beyond. Emergency lighting bathed everything in an ominous red glow as the aliens pressed their advance. Doctor huddled with 3 other researchers in their designated safe room, listening to the sound of alien boots echoing through the corridors. Through the door, they could hear the distinctive whine of energy weapons and the sharp commands being barked in an utterly foreign language. "What do you think they want?" whispered Doctor, who had been studying the system's unique microbial life. "Information," replied quietly. "This facility might look like a simple research station, but our quantum communication array could provide them with data on other human settlements." The sounds of combat grew closer. Heavy footsteps approached their door, followed by the ominous hum of charging weapons. Closed her eyes and tried to steady her breathing, wondering if these would be her final moments. The door exploded inward. Warriors flooded into the room, their weapons trained on the cowering humans. The aliens communicated in rapid clicks and whistles as they secured the prisoners, their movements efficient and practiced. Found herself face to face with one of the creatures, staring into alien eyes that seemed to evaluate her with cold intelligence. Subcommander supervised the prisoner collection with satisfaction. The humans had offered minimal resistance, exactly as predicted. A few security personnel had attempted to mount a defense, but they had been quickly overwhelmed by superior technology and training. "Facility secured," he reported to the 43 prisoners taken, beginning intelligence extraction. Commander A's response crackled through his helmet communicator. "Excellent work. Begin interrogation protocols. I want to know everything about human defensive capabilities in this sector." As the prisoners were herded into the main laboratory, now converted into a temporary holding area, studied the facility's layout. The humans had built efficiently, but their technology seemed primitive compared to standards. This would be another easy conquest for the Empire. Doctor found herself pressed against a wall with the other researchers, alien guards keeping them under constant surveillance. She noticed that Commander and his security team were being held separately, probably marked for special interrogation. The aliens seemed to understand human military structure well enough to identify the command personnel. One of them approached directly, its translator device producing stilted but understandable human speech. "You will provide access codes to your communication systems." Met the alien's gaze steadily. "I'm Commander Jake, United Earth Defense Force. According to interstellar law, I'm required to provide only my name, rank, and service number." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Your laws are irrelevant. You will cooperate, or your civilians will suffer the consequences." Felt a chill run down her spine. These aliens clearly had experience dealing with human settlements. They knew exactly how to apply pressure, how to exploit human protective instincts. This suggested they had been studying humanity for some time. His expression never changed. "My answer remains the same." The warrior raised its weapon, pointing it directly at Doctor. "Perhaps you require motivation." "Wait," said quickly. "There's something you should know about this facility before you do anything irreversible." The alien paused, its weapon still trained on the terrified researcher. "Speak." His voice carried a note of warning. "Check your tactical scans again. This isn't just a research station. Look at the personnel files more carefully." Consulted his portable scanner, accessing the human database they had quickly hacked upon arrival. Most of the personnel were indeed civilian researchers, but as he dug deeper into the classified files, he began to notice irregularities. Dr. Sarah wasn't just a geologist. According to her sealed records, she was Dr. Sarah, former military intelligence, specialist in xenobiology and first contact protocols. Doctor's file contained references to biological warfare research. Even the support staff had backgrounds that didn't quite match their apparent civilian roles. And Commander himself. A's blood went cold as he read the full classification. Wasn't just a security chief. He was Commander Jake, decorated veteran of the Outer Rim campaigns, former commanding officer of the infamous Ghost Battalion, a unit that had achieved legendary status for their unconventional warfare tactics. "Subcommander," came A's voice through the communicator. "Our long-range sensors have detected an energy spike from the outpost. What is your status?" I looked around the laboratory with new eyes, suddenly noticing details that had been overlooked in their initial assessment. The equipment wasn't just for geological research. Hidden among the civilian instruments were devices he couldn't immediately identify, systems that seemed far more sophisticated than they had initially appeared. "Commander," he replied slowly, "I believe we may have made an error in our intelligence assessment." Smile was thin and cold. "You might want to check your orbital scans again too. I think you'll find some interesting developments." As if on cue, alarm signals began blaring aboard the Commander A's attention snapped to the tactical display, where new contacts were suddenly appearing at the edge of sensor range. "Report," he barked. "Sir, detecting multiple vessel signatures dropping out of hyperspace. Configuration unknown, but they're moving fast and emitting significant energy readings." I stared at the display in growing unease. The human outpost had seemed like such an easy target, a simple research facility that would provide valuable intelligence about human capabilities. Now it was beginning to look like something else entirely. Below on the planet's surface, Smile widened slightly. "You see, Commander, Research Station Delta 7 isn't quite what it appears to be. It's what we call a honey trap, a facility specifically designed to attract exactly the kind of attention you've just given it." The warriors began to shift nervously, their weapons tracking between the prisoners as their confidence started to waver. I activated his communicator again, his voice tight with growing concern. "Commander, I strongly recommend we consider immediate withdrawal. The tactical situation may be developing beyond our initial parameters." On the bridge, chaos was beginning to erupt. New contacts continued to appear on the sensors, and their formation suggested a level of coordination that spoke of careful planning rather than random response. A's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of acute stress among his species. "How many vessels?" "Still counting, sir. At least 20 confirmed with more signatures appearing. Sir, some of these energy readings are unprecedented." The commander stared at the tactical display as the scope of his error became clear. What had seemed like a simple raid on an isolated research facility was rapidly becoming something far more dangerous. And somewhere below on that planet's surface, the humans they had so easily captured were beginning to look less like helpless prisoners and more like bait in a carefully laid trap. His voice echoed through A's communicator, calm and confident. "I think it's time we had a more honest conversation about exactly what you've stumbled into here." The first shots of what would become known as the Delta 7 incident were about to be fired, and they were beginning to realize they might have just made the worst tactical error in their species' military history. Remote outpost invasion, the trap springs. The bridge of the erupted in barely controlled chaos as more human vessels materialized from hyperspace. Commander A watched his tactical display with growing horror as the scope of his miscalculation became clear. "Status report," he demanded, his four eyes tracking the rapidly changing battle space. 37 confirmed contacts and still climbing," reported his sensor operator, voice strained with disbelief. "Sir, these aren't standard human patrol craft. I'm reading energy signatures that don't match any known human technology in our databases." A's blood chilled. The Empire prided itself on comprehensive intelligence about their enemies. They had been monitoring human space for cycles, cataloging their capabilities, mapping their weaknesses. How had an entire fleet of unknown vessels appeared without warning? On the planet below, Commander stood calmly amid his captors, watching Subcommander A's growing agitation with quiet satisfaction. The alien's translator continued to convert his rapid clicking into understandable speech as he coordinated with his orbiting command ship. "Sir, recommend immediate tactical withdrawal," A reported. "The situation has deteriorated beyond acceptable parameters." Doctor watched the exchange with fascination. Despite being prisoners, the balance of power in the room was shifting subtly. The warriors, so confident moments before, now moved with the nervous energy of soldiers realizing they were badly outnumbered. His voice carried clearly through the laboratory. "Subcommander, before you make any hasty decisions, perhaps you should understand exactly what you're dealing with here." I spun to face him, weapon raised. "Silence, human." I don't think you're in a position to make demands anymore, replied calmly. Check your orbital sensors. What do you see? Aboard the answer was becoming terrifyingly clear. The human fleet wasn't approaching in a standard attack formation. Instead, they had materialized in a perfect spherical arrangement around the force, each vessel positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire while denying any avenue of escape. It's an encirclement, whispered the tactical officer. Perfect coordination. How did they know exactly where we would be? Commander stared at the display as understanding dawned. They were waiting for us. This entire operation was anticipated. The lead human vessel, a sleek destroyer designated UES Retribution, opened a communication channel. The face that appeared on the main screen was that of a human woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to measure the commander with clinical precision. Vessel, this is Admiral Victoria, United Earth Defense Force. You are surrounded and surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. A's mandibles clicked furiously. This is Commander of the Imperial Cruiser. We are conducting a legitimate military operation against an enemy facility. Smile was cold as vacuum. Commander, that enemy facility you just attacked contains some very special people, people whose safety is of paramount importance to Earth Command. I suggest you reconsider your position. On the planet's surface, activated a hidden communicator built into his uniform collar. Admiral, this is Ghost Leader. Package is secure. Recommend proceeding with Phase 2. The warriors spun toward him in alarm, realizing that their prisoner had just established communication with the orbiting fleet. A raised his weapon, but's calm voice stopped him. I wouldn't do that if I were you. You're already in enough trouble. Doctor looked around the laboratory with new understanding. The equipment she had dismissed as standard research instruments suddenly looked different when viewed through the lens of revelation. Hidden among the geological scanners and atmospheric processors were devices she now recognized as sophisticated military hardware. You're not really a research station at all, are you? She said quietly. Smile was enigmatic. We're exactly what we appear to be, Doctor. A research facility staffed by civilian scientists conducting legitimate geological surveys. The fact that those scientists happen to have rather interesting backgrounds is purely coincidental. Doctor, still shaking from his near-death experience, stared at in confusion. Sarah, what's he talking about? His mind raced as pieces fell into place. Her own cover identity as a simple geologist was apparently shared by others on the station. We're all here for a reason, she realized. This isn't random assignment. Nodded approvingly. Very good, Doctor. Research Station Delta 7 serves multiple purposes. Yes, we conduct legitimate scientific research, but we also serve as what intelligence agencies call a honey trap, an apparently vulnerable target designed to attract exactly the kind of attention we just received. A's translator crackled as he processed this information. You used your own civilians as bait. Not civilians, corrected. Former military personnel, intelligence operatives, and specialists who volunteered for this assignment. Everyone here knew exactly what they were signing up for. Above them, the space battle was about to begin. Admiral's fleet had completed their encirclement, but Commander was not prepared to surrender without a fight. The and her escorts were powerful vessels, products of the Empire's most advanced military technology. All ships battle stations, A ordered. Prepare to break through their lines, target the largest human vessel and concentrate fire. The fleet erupted into motion, their sleek warships accelerating toward the human destroyer Retribution with frightening speed. Energy beams lanced across space as the aliens opened fire with everything they had. Admiral watched the approaching attack with the calm of someone who had expected exactly this response. All ships, execute Omega Protocol. Let's show our guests what they're really dealing with. What happened next everything the thought they knew about human military capabilities. Instead of responding with kinetic weapons or standard energy beams, the human fleet suddenly seemed to flicker and multiply. Holographic projections, gasped the sensor operator. The actual ships are massed within false contacts. But that wasn't the most shocking revelation. As the true human vessels revealed themselves, their energy signatures spiked to levels that should have been impossible for ships of their apparent size. Sir, the tactical officer reported in a voice tight with disbelief, I'm reading energy outputs consistent with vessels 3 times larger than their apparent displacement. These ships are generating power levels that exceed our theoretical maximums. The first human response came not as weapons fire, but as something far more sophisticated. Waves of electromagnetic interference washed over the fleet, disrupting their targeting systems and communication networks. The aliens found themselves flying blind, their advanced sensors reduced to static. Commander gripped his command chair as the shuddered under the assault. Engineering, report. Sir, their interference is specifically tuned to our technology. It's as if they know exactly how our systems operate. On the planet below, his communication device crackled to life. Ghost Leader, this is Admiral, beginning demonstration phase. Recommend your people take cover. Looked around at his captors, who were listening to frantic reports from their orbiting fleet. I strongly suggest you order your ships to stand down. What you're experiencing now is just a sample of human defensive capabilities. A's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed the reports flooding in through his communicator. His ships were being systematically neutralized without a single shot being fired. Their weapons couldn't lock onto targets, their engines were developing mysterious malfunctions, and their life support systems were beginning to experience intermittent failures. How is this possible? He demanded. Doctor stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. Commander, may I explain what's happening to your fleet? A gestured with his weapon for her to continue. You're experiencing the effects of quantum resonance technology, said, slipping naturally into her lecture mode. By analyzing the quantum signatures of your ship hulls and electronic systems, our vessels can generate precisely tuned interference patterns that disrupt your technology at the molecular level. The alien's eyes widened in shock. Quantum manipulation on that scale is theoretically impossible, the energy requirements alone. Not impossible, interjected. Just extremely advanced, the kind of technology that might be developed by a species that's been studying captured alien vessels for several decades. The implications hit like a physical blow. You've been capturing our ships. Not just yours, added helpfully. We've had encounters with 17 different alien species over the past 50 years. Each contact has provided valuable insights into non-human technology and tactical doctrine. His communicator crackled again. Ghost Leader Phase 3 is ready to commence. Shall we proceed with full demonstration? I looked around desperately, realizing that his ground forces were completely cut off from orbital support. His ships were being systematically disabled by technology that shouldn't exist, and his prisoners were revealing themselves to be far more than the helpless researchers they had appeared to be. What do you want? He asked finally. Smile was cold. That's a very good question, Sub-Commander. What we want is very simple. We want you to carry a message back to your empire. A message about what happens when someone threatens human civilians. Above them, Admiral's voice echoed through space as she broadcast on all frequencies. Fleet, this is your final warning. You have 10 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your task force. Commander stared at his tactical display in despair. His weapons were offline, his engines were failing, and his crew was reporting system failures throughout the ship. Somehow, impossibly, the humans had turned his advanced warships into floating scrap metal without firing a single shot. Sir, his communications officer reported, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the human fleet. Whatever they're preparing to do next, it's going to be significant. A's shoulders slumped in defeat. All ships stand down, prepare for boarding. On the planet below, A slowly lowered his weapon as the reality of the situation became clear. His empire had stumbled upon what appeared to be a simple research station, and had instead walked directly into the most sophisticated military trap in recorded history. Activated his communicator one final time. Admiral, this is Ghost Leader. Recommend proceeding to Phase 4. I think our guests are ready to learn exactly what they've gotten themselves into. Doctor looked around at her fellow researchers, seeing them with new eyes. Each person in the room was beginning to reveal hints of their true nature. The way moved with military precision, the calm competence with which the other scientists were handling the crisis, the subtle signs that everyone here was far more than they had initially appeared to be. This whole facility is a lie, isn't it? She said to. Not a lie, he corrected. A very carefully constructed truth. We really are conducting research here, Doctor, but we're researching much more than geology and atmospheric composition. We're researching how to defend humanity against exactly the kind of threat that just walked through our front door. As the first human boarding shuttles approached the disabled vessels, realized that his empire was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating the species they had dismissed as primitive and harmless. The humans had just demonstrated capabilities that would force a complete reassessment of their technological and military potential. And this was apparently just the beginning of what they could do. Remote outpost invasion revelations. Admirals boarding shuttles docked with the disabled vessels with mechanical precision. As human marines in advanced combat armor flooded through the airlocks, Commander watched his crew surrender without resistance. The aliens who had seemed so confident just hours before now moved with the defeated posture of soldiers who had encountered something beyond their comprehension. On the planet below, Subcommander found himself in the surreal position of being guarded by the very people he had taken prisoner. The power dynamic had shifted so completely that his own weapons now seemed irrelevant, had somehow taken control of the situation without appearing to move from his position against the laboratory wall. "I don't understand," said through his translator. "Your species was classified as level 3 on the technological development scale. Your weapons, your ships, your defensive capabilities, none of this matches our intelligence assessments." Doctor stepped forward, her earlier fear replaced by professional curiosity. "That's because your intelligence assessments were designed to be wrong, Commander. What you've been observing for the past several decades isn't humanity's true capability. It's a carefully maintained fiction." Nodded approvingly. "Doctor makes an excellent point. Tell me, Subcommander, how long has your empire been watching human space?" "Approximately 47 standard years," replied automatically, then seemed to catch himself. "Why am I answering your questions?" "Because you're beginning to realize that the questions I'm asking might help you understand how thoroughly your empire has been outmaneuvered," replied calmly. 47 years, that's interesting. Do you know what happened 48 years ago?" The alien's mandibles clicked uncertainly. "No." "First contact," Doctor said quietly. "The incident." Smiled. "Very good, Doctor. Yes, the incident. The first time humanity encountered a hostile alien species. A small scouting fleet, much like your own, attacked a research station, much like this one. They killed 17 people, including civilians." A's eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. "You've been preparing for us. This entire time you've been preparing." "Not specifically for the," corrected. "For anyone who might make the same mistake twice. You see, Commander, that first attack taught us several very important lessons about how to survive in a galaxy full of species that might not have humanity's best interests at heart. Activated a wall display that had been disguised as part of the laboratory's standard equipment. Suddenly, the room was filled with holographic projections showing star charts, ship designs, and technological specifications that clearly represented decades of careful planning. "Lesson 1, said, pointing to the display, never show your true capabilities until absolutely necessary. For 47 years, every human vessel your empire has encountered, every defensive installation you've observed, every technological capability has been deliberately designed to present humanity as a minor threat." The holographic display shifted, showing comparative analyses between the ships currently in orbit and the vessels they had expected to face. The difference was staggering. "Lesson 2, added, use your enemy's assumptions against them. Your empire classified humanity as level 3 because that's exactly what we wanted you to classify us as. Every observation your scouts made was carefully staged to reinforce that assessment." I stared at the data in growing horror. "The merchant vessels we've encountered, the patrol craft, the defensive installations around your colonies. All designed to look primitive while gathering intelligence about anyone who might be watching," confirmed. "Every encounter your ships had with humans was being recorded, analyzed, and used to develop countermeasures specifically tailored to your technology." Gestured to another section of the holographic display. "Lesson 3, preparation is everything. While your empire was watching us and planning invasion strategies, we were watching you right back. Every time one of your ships entered human space, every communication intercept, every piece of debris from your vessels, all of it was being studied. Doctor moved to a console and began typing rapidly. New data flowed across the display, showing detailed analyses of technology, tactical doctrine, and even cultural patterns. "We know more about your empire than most of your own citizens do," she said matter-of-factly. "Population estimates, industrial capacity, military doctrine, technological development cycles, even psychological profiles of your command structure. Commander A's preference for overwhelming force against apparently inferior opponents, for instance, is well documented in our files." A's translator struggled to process his rapid clicking as panic set in. "This is impossible. The level of coordination, the technological advancement, the strategic planning, how could we have missed something on this scale?" "Because you were looking for the wrong things," replied. "Your scouts were watching for military buildups, advanced weapons, fleet movements. You weren't looking for research stations conducting geological surveys. You weren't monitoring civilian shipping lanes or scientific conferences. You certainly weren't paying attention to personnel transfers that looked like normal academic career moves." The display shifted again, showing the true backgrounds of the station's staff. Doctor's file revealed expertise in xenobiology and first contact protocols developed through study of 17 different alien species. Doctor's specialization in biological warfare defense suddenly made more sense when viewed alongside his previous work developing countermeasures to exotic alien toxins. "Everyone here is exactly what they appear to be," continued. "We really are conducting legitimate research, but we're also field testing defensive technologies, gathering intelligence, and serving as an early warning system for threats exactly like your fleet." Admiral's voice crackled through his communicator. "Ghost Leader, the situation upstairs is under control. Commander has been very cooperative in providing access to their ship's databases. We're getting a complete picture of military capabilities." A sagged against the laboratory wall as the full scope of his defeat became clear. "You used us. This entire operation was designed to capture our ships and gather intelligence about our empire." "Not quite," corrected. "This operation was designed to test our defensive capabilities against a real threat, while demonstrating to potential enemies that attacking human civilians carries serious consequences. The intelligence gathering is just a bonus." Doctor approached one of the remaining guards, studying the alien's armor with scientific interest. "Commander, may I examine your equipment? I'm particularly interested in the quantum resonance patterns in your energy weapons." The guard looked to her uncertainly. The sub-commander realized he no longer had any meaningful authority in this situation. "Answer her questions," he said wearily. Ran a handheld scanner over the alien's weapon, nodding as data flowed across its display. "Fascinating. The energy matrix is almost identical to the hegemony weapons we encountered 12 years ago. You've been sharing technology with the Rigel hegemony, haven't you?" A's surprise was evident even through his translator's mechanical voice. "How could you possibly know about our alliance with the hegemony?" "Because we've been monitoring hegemony space for over a decade," answered. "We know about the technology sharing agreement, the joint military exercises, and the planned offensive against the Terran colonies scheduled for next year." Smiled at A's expression. "Did you really think we wouldn't notice when two hostile alien empires started coordinating their activities? Sub-Commander, we've been tracking every ship movement, every communication, every strategic planning session for months." The alien commander's world was collapsing around him, as he realized that humanity had not only anticipated the attack, but had been actively monitoring the broader alien alliance that was forming against them. "The hegemony fleet movement's near," he whispered. "You know about the staging area." "We know about all 3 staging areas," replied cheerfully. "Plus the backup rendezvous points, the supply chain arrangements, and the proposed timeline for the joint offensive. Commander, your alliance has been compromised from the very beginning." Activated his communicator again. "Admiral, please patch me through to Fleet Command. I think it's time to initiate Operation Lighthouse." Admiral's response was immediate. "Confirmed, Ghost Leader. Operation Lighthouse is authorized. All human fleets are moving to position." A looked around desperately as the implications hit him. Operation Lighthouse. A demonstration of human capabilities on a scale that will leave no doubt about our true technological level, explained. "Right now, every major alien power that's been considering hostile action against humanity is about to receive a very clear message about the consequences of such decisions. The laboratory's main display activated, showing a real-time tactical overview of human space. Dozens of fleet indicators were moving into position, revealing a military force that dwarfed anything that had imagined possible. 47 years of preparation, said quietly. 47 years of building, planning, and waiting for someone to make the mistake your empire just made. Doctor moved to another console, bringing up additional displays showing human colonies and installations throughout the galaxy. What your scouts observed was real, Commander. Those really are our research stations, our civilian shipping, our defensive installations. But what they didn't see was the infrastructure supporting them. The display zoomed in on one of the colonies they had been considering as a secondary target. Hidden beneath the civilian structures were massive defensive installations, shipyards producing vessels far beyond anything the aliens had, and industrial facilities capable of supporting a war effort on an unprecedented scale. Every human world your empire has been watching has been quietly preparing for this day, explained. Every civilian facility has a secondary defensive role. Every research station is a monitoring post. Every merchant ship is gathering intelligence. I stared at the displays in numb shock. The scale of the deception. It would require coordination across your entire species. Which brings us to the most important lesson, said seriously. Never underestimate a species that's faced extinction and survived. The incident wasn't just first contact for us, Subcommander. It was a wake-up call that changed everything about how humanity approaches interstellar relations. Admiral's voice echoed through the laboratory as she broadcast on all frequencies throughout the system. This is Admiral Victoria of the United Earth Defense Force, broadcasting to all alien vessels within sensor range. The attack on Research Station Delta 7 has been repelled. The task force has surrendered and is being taken into custody. This action demonstrates humanity's commitment to defending our people and our interests against all threats. The broadcast continued, but its target audience was no longer just the defeated fleet. Throughout the galaxy, alien intelligence services that had been monitoring the remote system suddenly found themselves witnessing a display of human military capability that would require a complete reassessment of Earth's position in the galactic power structure. Looked at it with something approaching sympathy. Sub-Commander, you and your crew are going to be released to return to your empire with a complete record of what happened here. You're going to tell them everything you've seen, everything you've learned about human capabilities. Why, I asked. Why let us go when we now know so much? Because, Doctor replied, the whole point of this exercise was to send a message, and you can't deliver a message if you're not alive to tell it. Nodded, your empire and every other potential threat out there needs to understand that humanity is no longer the helpless victim we appeared to be 47 years ago. We've grown up, Subcommander, and we're ready to defend ourselves. As human crews began preparing the captured vessels for their return journey, I realized that his failed raid had accomplished something no one had intended. It had announced to the galaxy that humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows, no longer pretending to be weak and vulnerable. The age of human defenselessness was over, and the galaxy was about to learn what Earth's children could do when properly motivated.